populated areas go, it's really about it in terms of areas being affected. So let's switch over to the velocities to see where we're looking. Okay, so it's right here. Thankfully, you're looking at the south shore of Lake Maurepas, which is all marsh. It looks like it may be right here. Let me read from what the National Weather Service is saying in their discussion. And again, I get this information sent to me via text, and so I'm able to get this. So this is for northeastern St. John the Baptist and southeastern Tangi. This will be in effect for the next 50 minutes or so. So this storm, possible of producing a tornado, it's about 8 miles north of Laplace. So for the folks in Laplace, this is north of you, and it's moving northeast at about 50 miles an hour. So again, another storm moving very, very quickly. It does look like it is, at least based on the reflectivity, it's more over water at the moment. So it's very possible that this is a water spout. So I tell you what, folks along I-55 right now may be looking at a water spout off to the Lake Maurepas area, because there is where the couplet is showing up. It's right here. So this is that rotation. So the warned area is on land. If this were to cross on land, it would affect Rudock and I-55. So this is the area that we're talking about right now. This is the rotation, really more over Lake Maurepas at the moment. I kind of zoom out. I know when we zoom in here to get all the details of the map, you kind of lose your bearings here. So widening out again. Here's western Lake Pontchartrain. Here's Lake Maurepas. That's where the circulation is. Very likely that this is a water spout over Lake Maurepas that will be crossing I-55. Let's kind of just go backwards in time a little bit just to kind of see where this was. It looked like, yeah, it was over St. John, and again, this is more marshy as you get north of 10 and the spillway, or north of 10, not the spillway. But it does look like it is now over water. So if it kind of moves in that general trajectory, would then eventually take it, not really as much St. John, just the way the parish kind of lines up here along 55, and then eventually toward, again, it's kind of riding along. I'll switch back over to our reflectivity here. It is basically just riding along. There's the rotation. It's kind of riding from the southwest toward the northeast, riding along the leading edge of these storms. And that's sometimes what poses more of a threat. These little storms that kind of ride along the main line of storms. And that's exactly what we have here. What is likely a waterspout. Reason waterspouts form so easily within these type of storms is that there's a lack of friction. And when it's over land, it sometimes interacts with the land and it prevents any kind of real circulation to develop. That really isn't the case over water. It's able to spin up very, very easily. And if those continue toward land, like we saw last week when we had the Lake Pontchartrain waterspout that continued toward Lacombe and the Big Branch area, that changed over once it crossed on land into a tornado. So what we likely have is a waterspout that could potentially then turn to a tornado. So the areas impacted again at the moment is really just Rudock. So for folks in that area and for anyone that maybe has family, friends that are going to be crossing I-55, probably kind of a hazardous drive at the moment, as you do have some very intense rainfall there right now. Strong winds, a lot of lightning, and likely just off to the west of I-55, a waterspout that, again, if it holds together, and again, as far as land goes, this is more marsh than anything, but will affect kind of the Rudock area. Then if it holds together, maybe affecting parts of southern Tangipahoa Parish right along the lakefront there as this continues up toward the generally northeast, and again, about 50 miles an hour. So it is moving very, very rapidly, as all of these storms have been so far. So as this is not really affecting too many folks, let's just go back over to our reflectivity and again kind of give you an idea of where that is. Very much embedded in some very heavy rainfall. You've got the lightning that'll be crossing I-55 shortly. This is the leading edge of the storms, and it doesn't sometimes take much to see any kind of rotation. So you know what? As we watch these storms and continue to closely monitor them, okay, we have a traffic camera of I-55, so let's take a look. This is at Manchac, so this is right about where the potential tornado is. So let's zoom back into that rotation, and Boy, if I had like a mile marker indication on our radar here, we could really tell you just how close we are to this tower, to this traffic camera, which is at Manchac. So it is a live look. Boy, you've already got the very intense rainfall. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather kind of watch this as opposed to the radar as it does approach 55 here, because this will give us a much clearer picture as to whether or not a waterspout indeed crosses the interstate there. And it'll be getting there pretty quickly. It's moving about 50 miles an hour right now. The main rotation is just to the west of 55. So, you know, you feel for anybody on the roads right now with the very blinding rain. But as this approaches the I-55 camera at Manchac, we may see, now it may be that that camera is, you know, these are, you know, when we talk about tornadoes, water spouts, these are usually very, very small. So it may not necessarily impact. This is going to be right over the Rudock area as it does eventually cross I-10. So kind of want to keep my eye on this traffic camera just to see if indeed we do see something as the circulation is nearing the you know, kind of that spit of land between Lake Maurepas, Lake Pontchartrain, and I-55. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. My director's talking to me now. Can you say that again? Okay. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. We're kind of increasing the size so we can get a kind of better picture there. So again, the rotation right now is pretty much over water and not really affecting a great many folks who are going to be crossing into the Rudock area shortly. And, you know, I'm not entirely certain where this camera is in regards to where our circulation is showing up, our rotation is showing up on radar. Okay, so this is just north. I'm being told this is just north. So the camera is just north. So I assume this camera is looking south. So this is southbound traffic and northbound? Okay. So we are looking south. So if there is a water spout, we may, if the camera is indeed close enough, we may be seeing that crossing over shortly. So we will kind of wait and see. There we go, full screen to give you a better idea. So again, if you are just joining us, a new tornado warning has been issued. Now, it was for St. John and Tangi, but it's really that northeast corner of St. John that extends toward Tangi along I-55. That is the area being highlighted for rotation. And I will say this, I've been watching it on radar. The rotation really isn't showing up nearly as much as it had been when this was out over Lake Maurepas. So the rotation not really showing up nearly as well defined as it had been, which looks like it may be crossing I-55 shortly. But as I said, at least based on the velocities of radar here, it's not quite as well defined. So it'll be interesting to see here shortly if we're close enough to where that rotation is to maybe see something. Again, we're also embedded within some blinding heavy rainfall. You got the low clouds, strong winds, which is pushing all of that water, making visibility greatly reduced. But if we were going to see anything, it would likely be a water spout somewhere right in through here and then crossing I-55 if there is indeed a water spout that is still there. As I mentioned, the velocity is not quite as well defined as they had been. So if there is anything, it should be kind of within our camera range here. Again, if we're close enough to it, that we should see that crossing I-55 there shortly as we go through the next couple of minutes. I tell you what, this little couplet, while not as well defined, if it is there and if our camera is close enough, this should be right on top of 55 right now. So it may be that, one, we're just a little too far north, two, the visibilities are just too reduced for us to really see anything, or three, the rotation has indeed weakened enough that there really isn't anything any longer at the surface. And again, this is not a confirmed, this is radar detected. Doesn't necessarily mean that there is anything on the ground. It just means that the rotation is showing up and that a warning needs to be issued. That's what our radar indicated warnings mean. Gone are the days where one actually has to be spotted on the ground to be verified. We can actually detect these on radar. Doesn't mean they always are on the ground, but certainly something that we need to take seriously as it may be crossing 55 now. And again, looking at the velocities, not really showing up nearly as well as it had been, as it kind of would be crossing 55 right now. Our camera just to the north of where that rotation was showing up And again, it may be that we're just, again, one too far to the north. It may be the visibilities are too reduced, or it may be that rotation is really no longer showing up there over more the marshier areas. And again, this is kind of placing it just really more to the north of Rudock over I-55. So this is the area that we're talking about right now, under the warned area. And again, we just kind of out of curiosity as we watch this camera here to see if anything does indeed hold together. Now, what's been interesting is I've been looking at the velocities here and kind of tracking this out. It more or less looks like it's now moving toward the shore, the northwestern shore of Lake Pontchartrain. So while southern Tangipahoa Hope Parish is under the warned area, it may be that this little circulation just kind of skirts right along the extreme southern shore, which again for Tangi is pretty much all marsh. We don't really have any communities that far south. You're looking at kind of to the southwest of Madisonville in Tangi, where that circulation may just kind of clip over the next few minutes or so. At the moment, it looks like that rotation has already cleared, and actually you already see improving visibility, because as I switch, I'm going to switch over, we'll stay on this camera, but as I kind of switch over here, the heaviest of the rainfall is starting to abate. So now we have great visibility. Amazing when you kind of watch this, just how it goes from near, you know, zero visibility where we could not see very far down I-55 to now a pretty clear shot down, you know, and there is nothing there. So it looks like whatever was possibly passing over 55 is gone now and out of our camera range. So we can jump back over to radar, because again, if there was anything there, I'm going to switch over to our velocities, and I'm going to kind of show this in the last 45 minutes or so, just to kind of give you an idea of, you know, here's that rotation there as it kind of crossed from St. John, and then it started to approach I-55, so kind of follow that little rotation there. There it was, and then as it kind of moved over 55, that's where it was, right over the interstate, not really showing up quite as well. And then as we kind of put this toward the current time, again, maybe a little broad rotation, kind of following that trajectory. It might kind of take it right along kind of the extreme southeastern or southwestern corner of Tangi, as this will probably stay out over the lake. But if it does get over the lake, we may easily see this spin up once again, become a waterspout, and then eventually move maybe towards St. Tammany Parish. I'm just kind of thinking this out, this trajectory out a little bit farther from where it is at the moment. And when we go to the, let's just go to the live image. This again is showing you where the storm is at the moment, the rotation is at the moment, and it looks like it's probably going to stay out over western Lake Pontchartrain. So it'll be interesting to wait and see what this eventually does. If that rotation continues and holds together, maybe reforming into a waterspout, then we would see impacts potentially in southern St. Tammany Parish in the next, say, 20, 30 minutes at the most, just based on how fast these storms have been moving. So that'll be something that we watch for. Really, the warned area at the moment in southern Tangipahoa doesn't look like you're really under that threat any longer, as we've just been showing you here, kind of watching that rotation, the way it's progressed. It doesn't look like it may continue into the warned area. It may be kind of moving outside of the warned area, just again, just kind of following the trajectory of that little rotation here. It may stay out more over western Lake Pontchartrain, eventually more northwestern Lake Pontchartrain, but still potent, because with that rotation still showing up, that circulation rotation still showing up on radar, that it may, if it does hold together, as I said, over the water, these can easily spawn a waterspout. So that will be something that could threaten then St. Tammany Parish if it were to indeed hold together. Switching back over, as it looked like the threat for that warning is gone. We still have the strong storms that are now just about out of central Washington Parish, now into Pearl River County. So again, the leading edge, this is where you're getting any kind of threat for severe weather, and that is now moving out. So Sun from Bogalusa down towards Sun, it's already through Angie, Varnado, Bogalusa, Sun. You still have the heavy to moderate rain in Folsom, but again, the leading edge is where you're going to find those initial strong 50, 60 mile an hour winds sustained. So you're going to get those strong winds to heavy rainfall, moderate rain in, say, Folsom to Goodby, maybe some areas of heavy rain in Goodby, but the strongest of the winds have already passed through Goodby. But again, along this line, you also sometimes have these little spins that show up and kind of ride along the boundary. So while the entire line is moving west to east, these embedded little disturbances kind of ride along that. So from the southwest up toward the northeast. So while we're tracking the main line of thunderstorms almost due east, within these little possible tornadic storms, you're going to see more of a trajectory toward the northeast, not due east, because they're kind of paralleling the main line of storms as it continues to progress toward the west. As far as the city goes, thankfully, let's look at our velocities to see nothing is showing up. So let's hope that that continues to be the case. As far as the city goes, we're looking at just some strong winds. But notice all of the winds are moving in the same direction, toward the radar site in Slidell. If we were to pick up any areas where they're moving away, that would indicate rotation. And as of right now, let's kind of pan this down south. What's called range folding there, where you see the purple. Nothing is jumping out. So at the moment, the southern end of this line, and I'm talking kind of from the lake toward the coast, has been okay. Let's hope that is a trend which continues. Where we've seen a little bit more of the rotation has been on the northern end of this line, and where you get this little isolated couplet, which really, you know, maybe right in through here, kind of showing up out over the lake. It looks like things have settled down, certainly for the warned area. And even within this warned area, you're talking about extreme southern Tangipahoa. It's primarily marsh right along the lakefront there. So it really not affecting any communities as this rotation continues kind of along. And this will be something that we watch. Again, as we kind of go back to regular programming here, this will be something to watch, that this could easily, it's that circulation, that rotation stays out over Lake Pontchartrain. We could easily see that spawn a water spout, and if that does in fact end up being the case, then we will be maybe tracking this towards St. Tammany. So for the folks in St. Tammany, this is still kind of your heads up that we may be monitoring something heading in your direction. Maybe not quite there yet, but it could. As far as the South Shore goes, right now, we're getting some very heavy rain toward Norco, so eventually to Destrehan. It'll continue through St. Charles. Eventually, this is not too far off of entering into Jefferson Parish. This is where you're going to get kind of that leading edge and an initial gust of some very strong winds, heavy rain, bit of lightning, and then the rain starts to taper off a bit. You have the moderate and then lighter rainfall, but the severe risk, once this leading edge is through, is done. So as far as Laplace, Reserve, Garyville, you're just about out of the risk of any severe weather as we continue through the rest of the night. As we've said it many times, let's try and cut away again, and hopefully you don't see me again until 10 o'clock, but we will be here all night closely monitoring the line of storms as they push through southeast Louisiana and into southern Mississippi.
From Channel 4's Eyewitness News, this